Today we are going to discuss something about the anatomy of the anterior abdominal wall. The anterior abdominal wall is the most important structure which a surgeon has to deal with day in and day out. Any surgery, any procedure will depend upon the anatomy of the anterior abdominal wall, so it has to be very well understood by the students. So what is the anterior abdominal wall? Anterior abdominal wall is basically an hexagonal shaped structure seen anteriorly. Superiorly, it is bounded by the costal margins, xiphoid process. Laterally, by the mid-axillary line. Inferiorly, by the iliac crest, the inguinal ligament, the pubis bone and the pubic symphysis. This anterior abdominal wall, it includes the anatomy of the inguinal region also, which will be covered in a separate class. This is the surface anatomy. For the convenience of teaching and for the convenience of examination of a patient, we have divided abdomen into 4 quadrants by one central line and one horizontal line. This divides the abdomen into 4 quadrants: the right upper quadrant, the left upper quadrant, the left lower quadrant and the right lower quadrant. Anatomically, abdomen is divided into 9 regions to locate any pathology. It is divided by 2 vertical lines and the 2 horizontal lines. The 2 vertical lines, they are the mid-clavicular line, that is a line joining the midpoint of the clavicle to the mid-inguinal point, and 2 horizontal lines which are the transtubercular plane and the transpyloric plane. The transtubercular plane, it passes through the tubercle on the iliac crest. This tubercle lies about 5 cm anterior to the highest point of the iliac crest, and the transpyloric plane which passes through the tip of the 9th costal cartilage. Here this horizontal line, this is the subcostal line. So as per the Gray's anatomy, they have divided according to the subcostal line. But in the surgical books, the horizontal line defined is the transpyloric plane through the tip of the 9th costal cartilage. This horizontal line, this is the imaginary line which is said to be at the level of the pylorus of the stomach. There are many important structures which pass at this plane, which we are going to discuss further. So coming to the abdominal wall, there are various layers of the abdominal wall. Externally visible is the skin, which is the most anterior structure, made up of dermis and epidermis. Then comes the soft tissue, and then there is muscles and connective tissue. This is the anterior most is the skin, then comes the soft tissue, that is the fat, and then the muscle layers of the abdominal wall. The soft tissue. Soft tissue is again divided into 2 parts, the superficial fascia and the deep fascia. Superficial fascia again divided into 2 parts, that is a superficial fatty layer, also called the Camper's fascia, and a deeper membranous layer which is called the Scarpa's fascia. So Scarpa's fascia is a part of the superficial fascia, and the deeper layer of the soft tissue, it is made up of adipose tissue. Here in adipose tissue, an obese patient, they have thick adipose layer which constitutes the bulk of the abdominal wall. The Camper's fascia. This Camper's fascia is basically the superficial fat which is present all over the body, and it is in continuation with the superficial fat all over the rest of the body. In the scrotum, there is a smooth muscle layer called the dartos muscle which lies in this layer. Then the deep membranous layer or the Scarpa's fascia. It is about 0.5 to 1 millimeter thick. Superiorly, it continues as a superficial fascia over the remainder of the trunk. In the midline, it is adherent to the linea alba and the cubic symphysis. Inferiorly, it fuses with the iliac crest. So this deeper layer of the superficial fascia, it fuses with the iliac crest. It is attached to the fascia lata inferiorly, and then it continues over the pannus as the superficial fascia of the pannus. In the perineum, it continues as a Colles fascia. In the pannus, it forms the fundiform ligament of the pannus, in which the dorsal vein of pannus runs. This is a representation of the layers of the abdominal wall. Starting with the top, first one is the skin, then comes the superficial fat, or the Camper's fascia. In this layer lies the superficial neurovascular bundle. Then comes the membranous layer or the Scarpa's fascia, and between the Scarpa's fascia and the muscle layer, between these two layers lies the adipose tissue. The deep adipose tissue is there. Then comes the muscle layers. There are three muscles in the anterior abdominal wall. They are the external oblique, internal oblique. They are the external oblique, internal oblique, and the transverse abdominis. Each of these muscles, they are covered by the fascia or the sheath. No muscle is bare in our body. They are all covered by fascia or the sheath. So the external oblique muscle, it has got an anterior fascia and a posterior fascia. Similarly, the internal oblique has an anterior fascia and an posterior fascia. These two fascia layers, they are not separate, they are fused together. Here they are shown separately only for the convenience. This neurovascular bundle, this lies between the internal oblique and the transverse abdominis muscle. This is the transversus abdominis muscle. So there are three muscle layers. Below this transverse abdominis muscle lies the fascia transversalis. This is the fascia transversalis. This is the transversalis fascia. This is the inner investing fascia of the transversus abdominis muscle. Now here the preperitoneal surface lies. This innermost layer is the peritoneum. So between the fascia transversalis and the peritoneum is the preperitoneal space. This preperitoneal space is again divided into two parts. They are the membranous part and the fatty part. This is divided by the fascia transversalis. So again, as with the advancement of the laparoscopic surgery, now they know that the fascia transversalis is again a bilayered membrane, that is a superficial and a deeper layer. This deeper layer of the fascia transversalis, it divides the preperitoneal space into two. On the muscles of the abdominal wall, there are three flat muscles and there are two longitudinal muscles or the vertical muscles. They are the external oblique, internal oblique, and the transversus abdominis muscle. And the vertical muscles, they are rectus abdominis and the pyramidalis. This is the external oblique muscle. You have to remember the origins, insertions, and where this muscle ends, because it has got a great implication during surgery. The external oblique muscle, it originates from the muscular slips from the lower 8 ribs, that is starting from the 5th up to the 12th rib. So this is the origin of the external oblique muscle. Pay attention to the direction of the muscle. This muscle is directed downwards and medially, just like putting hand in your pockets. So this is the direction of the external oblique. This is the medial margin of the external oblique, where the muscle ends and the aponeurosis begins. This line, this denotes the linea semilunaris. Here again note the lowermost margin of the external oblique. this lowermost margin lies almost to the level of the iliac crest, and this is the level for the arcuate line or the linea semicircularis. The insertion, this is inserted into the lateral lip of the iliac crest. This is the lateral lip of the iliac crest where it is inserted. It forms an aponeurosis, and this aponeurosis ends in the midline as linea alba. The inferior most part of this aponeurosis, it is turned inward, and this forms the inguinal ligament. It is attached medially to the pubic tubercle and the pubic symphysis. Now this muscle, this is innervated by the lower 6 spinal nerves, spinal thoracic nerves, that is T7 to T12. The function of this muscle is to maintain the abdominal tone, to increase the intra-abdominal pressure and lateral flexion of the trunk against resistance. This is the internal oblique muscle. Again, the origin of the internal oblique muscle, it is from the thoracolumbar fascia. This is the thoracolumbar fascia on the lateral flank, thoracolumbar fascia. So the internal oblique originates from the thoracolumbar fascia, from the iliac crest, the middle part of the iliac crest, and the lateral 2/3 of the inguinal ligament. So this is the origin of the internal oblique. This internal oblique muscle, it runs medially and upwards. This runs medially and upwards. So this direction is almost perpendicular to that of the external oblique muscle. It is inserted at the inferior border of lower 3 or 4 ribs. That is where it is inserted. Again, it forms an aponeurosis. This aponeurosis, it fuses in the center line at the linea alba. The inferior border of the internal oblique has a very interesting relationship with the inguinal canal. As it originates from the lateral 2/3 of the inguinal ligament, so first it forms the anterior wall of the inguinal canal, then it forms the roof of the inguinal canal, and then it arches backwards, fuses with the transverse abdominis muscle, it forms the conjoint tendon, and it forms the posterior wall of the inguinal canal. So this internal oblique, it has a triple relationship with the inguinal canal. Innervation, this is innervated by the lower 6 thoracic spinal nerves and L1, and the function of this is muscle is maintenance of the abdominal tone, increase the intra-abdominal pressure and lateral flexion of the trunk against resistance. Transverse abdominis muscle. Now look carefully at the diagram. The origin of transverse abdominis muscle is through the thoracolumbar fascia. It originates from the thoracolumbar fascia. It originates as a muscular slips from the lower 6 costal cartilage. These lower 6 costal cartilage, it originates as a muscular slip from here, and the lateral 1/3 of the inguinal ligament and outermost lip of the iliac crest. So that is the origin of this transverse abdominis muscle. The direction of this muscle is transverse. It is absolutely transverse. Again, it ends as aponeurosis. This aponeurosis is inserted in the midline in the linea alba, and inferiorly it is attached to the iliac crest and the pectineal line. So this is the transverse abdominis muscle. It is innervated by the lower 6 thoracic spinal nerves and L1, and the function is to maintain the abdominal tone and increase the intra-abdominal pressure. So coming to the vertical muscles, so there are 2 muscles, they are the rectus abdominis and the pyramidalis. The rectus abdominis muscle, it originates from the pubic crest, the pubic tubercle and the pubic symphysis. So this is the origin of the rectus muscle. It gets innervated, it gets inserted in the costal cartilage of the 5th to 8th rib, 5th to 7th rib. This is the 5th, 6th and 7th rib. So it is inserted to the 5th, 6th and 7th rib and to the xiphoid process. Yeah, just one more minute. है ना? it has got three tendinous intersection, one at the level of the xiphoid process, another at the level of umbilicus, and one is in between these two intersections. This is a small pyramidalis muscle which originates at the pubic symphysis, inserts in the linea alba, and its function is tensioning of the lower linea alba. I think we will continue with the rest of the class in the next session. Thank you so much.